So today we will look at this very important part of our syllabus, general essay. What you have to remember is that if you have to get into top 100 ranks, there are certain things which you should always do very well. In the main examination, you are optional. You must score above 300 marks. And your ethics paper, you have to score at least 110 to 120 marks. And most importantly, your essay paper, you have to score at least 150 marks. And of course, when it comes to interview, you have to score at least 180 marks. This should be your target while preparing for main examination. Then only you can hope to be there in the top 100 ranks. You can also get your cadre of your choice also if you come in the top 50 ranks. I don't have to tell you about the importance of this essay, because on an average, if you look at the GS marks, the rest of the 4 papers, GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4, average score hovers around 100 marks. That is around out of 250. That is around 40%. Whereas if you are writing very well in essay, you can easily score 150 marks. And some people have scored 170 marks also. So that is where you can be rest assured that your ultimate success depends on the performance in this general essay paper. In the last few years, UPSC has changed the pattern also. Earlier they used to ask only one essay for 250 marks. Now they are asking 2 essays. You have to write 2 essays, choosing one from each section, and they are giving around 4 essays in each section, and then each one will carry around 125 marks. This essay you have to write in around 1000 to 1200 words. So if you are writing around 100 words in a page, you are writing 10 to 12 pages. This is what the structure of essay is concerned. And if you look at the trend of UPSC, what are the essays that they are asking normally? They are asking nowadays more philosophical essays, or you can say essays related to ethics. This is what I always say. If you are preparing for ethics 250 marks, please don't think that you are only preparing for 250 marks of ethics. You are also preparing for 250 marks of essay also, because in both the sections you have at least 1 or 2 essays which are related to ethics. If you are doing very well in ethics, that means you are preparing for 500 marks, and if you are writing these essays very well, you can definitely be scoring at least 150 marks in your essay also. That is the reason why I always say that ethics is going to be the paper that will decide your fate as far as this examination is concerned. So coming back here, they are giving nowadays a lot more focus to these kind of essays. Then they are also asking essays related to your polity and governance. Then they are asking essays related to geography and environment, and essays related to your internal security and law and order. And they are also asking essays related to IT, information technology. If you look at it, all of them are important. from your general studies point of view also. So if you are doing well with your general studies other papers of syllabus, automatically you can do very well for essay also. Then comes the next question, should we prepare separately for essay? If you have to ask me, I will say that I don't require any separate preparation for essay, except that you require much wider reading compared to your general studies. You can read famous authors, you can read popular writers and see how they are writing. Try to observe their writing style. Why? Because when they write, you feel like reading more. Why? Because they are very, very interesting. You have to cultivate that art of making things interesting. So what is required for a good essay? Sorry. So the question that comes up is, what is needed for a good essay? Is there any standard procedure? Nowadays everyone is talking about SOP, standard operating procedures. In the same manner, do we have any standard procedure for essay writing? Can essay writing, which is an art, be converted into a science with standard principles? You can say that there are certain things which must be there as part of your essay. The rest of the things are there only when you cultivate this habit of writing. So you can say that if you take care of the basic aspects, the rest of the things depend on what you write and how you write. So what are the things that you must remember when you are writing a good essay, first and foremost? When you are writing, say, 10 to 12 pages, so both the essays means you are writing around 25 pages. So reading 25 pages becomes a difficult task. Around, say, 12,000 people are writing the examination. 12,000 into 25, you can imagine. So it becomes a very difficult task for the examiner, for the evaluator to read the entire essay. So what you must remember as part of your first principle here is that you can get marks in your essay only when you make the examiner read your entire essay. You have to make the examiner read your entire essay. Second thing that automatically comes after that is, how can you make your examiner, evaluator read the entire essay? He will read your entire essay only when it is interesting in nature. It is as simple as that one. When you make your essay interesting, automatically he will read it from the first line to the last line. So, how to make your essay interesting in nature? For example, if you look at the films also, some films run and some films don't. There are some films which are good, but they don't become popular. There are some films which are bad outright, but they become very popular. What is the difference here? The difference here is that how do you make it interesting for people? It doesn't really matter the story or anything else. You don't require a gripping story, a suspense or anything like that. Only thing is that what really matters is if you are able to make the person sit there in the hall for 2.5 hours. That is where you talk about screenplay. The same thing also is required for your essay. If the screenplay is gripping, the narration is highly interesting, automatically you can write very well. I mean, automatically the film can become a big hit. In the same manner, if you are writing very interesting things with better interlinkages, with good anecdotes, with gripping examples, you can make your essay very interesting. That is what you must remember. There is no other secret of success except that it should be interesting in nature. This is the important thing that you have to remember. The next question is how to make it interesting. It is very easy to say that it is, you have to make it interesting. How to make it interesting? How to make it interesting? So, in every page that you are writing, because you are writing for 10-12 pages, every page you are writing, you must ensure that there are at least 2-3 sentences which are thought provoking, which are you can say sensational. The moment I read those sentences, I should get more interested in what you are writing. That is what you must remember. Wherein it is all about catching the attention of the evaluator. That you can do, by coming out with these kind of sentences, and you can underline them so that the examiner can easily find them also. Make sure that you are underlining only 2-3 lines in a page. If you are writing 20 lines, and if you are underlining all the 20 lines, if you are underlining 19 lines, I might be forced to believe that the one line which is not underlined will be important. So don't commit the mistake of underlining everything. Just only 2-3 lines, and those 2-3 lines should be eye-catching, very sensational, very radical, thought-provoking, so that I will be able to read. After reading those 2-3 sentences, I will be able to read the entire page also. This is what you have to remember. Next thing is that whenever you are writing the essay, what you must remember is that it should be multidimensional. It should cover all the dimensions. It should cover all the dimensions. What do I mean by multidimensional? If you are writing any general essays, if you are writing any essays related to, say, polity or governance or economy or geography or sustainable development or environment or anything like that, if you are writing any of these things, what you must remember is that the topic given might be unidimensional, but you must make it multidimensional. So what do I mean by all this multidimensional? Here you can talk about the political dimension, you can talk about the economic dimension, you can talk about the administrative dimension, you can talk about the legal dimension, you can talk about the global dimension, you can talk about the environmental dimension, you can talk about the constitutional dimension, you can talk about the social and cultural dimension, you can talk about the ethical dimension. If you try to look at the essay from all the dimensions, automatically it is complete, because every page you will be writing one dimension and you are interlinking all those dimensions. Automatically your essay becomes very interesting, because you are not repeating yourself. The time you should not commit while writing essays is that you should not repeat yourself. What people do is that they take one point and they keep on repeating, they keep on discussing the same point. At the end of the day, you will be writing only one point. So what you must make sure that you are making it as much multidimensional as possible. So once you make it multidimensional, the next logical step would be interlinking all those dimensions. Interlinking all those dimensions. Here you can include historical also. Interlinking all those dimensions. This is another thing that you have to remember. Next thing that you have to remember while writing the essay is your introduction and conclusion. These things are very, very important. These things are really important. Again, I will go back to the analogy, the example I have given here, films. You take all the successful films, the introduction is always gripping. It makes you to watch the movie compulsorily for the next 2.5 hours. On the other hand, if the introduction is pale, normally you lose interest in that particular film. In the same manner, when I am evaluating your essay, I look for your introduction. If it is gripping, if it is interesting, I will be tempted to read the entire essay. So this introduction becomes very, very important. The next question that comes is how to make your introduction interesting. You can start your essay with a good quotation, but this is a very old way of writing the essay, but still it is good. You can start your essay with a good quotation, or you can start your essay with any live incidents which happened sometime, which happened recently or sometime back, anytime, so that you are linking the topic to these incidents, and then you will be raising all other questions related to the topic. That is the reason why this introduction becomes very important. As far as conclusion is concerned, what you are writing as part of conclusion, this conclusion also reveals your personality. This conclusion can be a little bit more optimistic, it can be more positive, it can be more futuristic, so that whatever may be the problems, the evaluator must believe that nothing is so problematic. After all, at the end of the day, for every problem there can be one solution. That is what I expect from you as part of your conclusion. And as part of explanation, I am saying, as I said earlier, all the dimensions could be covered. As part of explanation, you can cover all these dimensions. So this is what you are expected to do as part of writing the essays. Again, as I said, there is no standard procedure as far as writing essays are concerned. You can write the way you like. People can get marks. People are getting marks for writing the essays in their own original style. And that original style may not be following all these things which we have mentioned here. But what we have mentioned here is that this is, if you write like this, there is every possibility of you getting very good marks all the time. That is what is called consistency. And this is what you are expected to do while writing essays. Now, if I tell you about these things theoretically, you will be getting into a situation wherein you have understood something but you don't know how to put that into practice. So let us take some of those essays that were asked by UPSC in recent times and discuss them and find out how to put all the things that we have mentioned here into practice. That is what we will try to do in the next 1 hour or so. So when UPSC is giving so much of choice to you, in the section A they are giving 4 essays, section B they are giving 4 more essays. So out of these 8 essays you have to write only 2. You can be spoiled for choices here, because after those 4, definitely 2 essays are those which you know very well, which you can write very well. Then the question that comes up is how to select the essays, how to choose the essays, because choosing the essay is as important as writing the essay also. Here again you have choices. Normally, as we have said, if you divide the essays into 2 categories broadly, one, as I said, philosophical essays, and the second one is rest, non-philosophical and all other essays. Now the question here is, which one you should choose? What are the advantages and disadvantages? If you look at the rest, what you can be assured of is minimum marks, because they are mostly related to your topics of general studies papers, like polity, governance, social issues, geography, environment, science and technology, so on and so forth. If you are thorough with your general studies topics, you can be writing these essays. So you can expect minimum marks, and there is less amount of uncertainty when you are writing these essays. That means the marks do not vary very much. For example, out of 125 marks, for these essays, you can definitely expect around 60 marks. That means above 50% you can definitely expect. So if you are writing both the essays, you can expect around 125 marks easily. Whatever may be the evaluation, mode of evaluation, 125 marks you can be rest assured while writing these essays. And if you write really well, but again the problem with these kind of essays is that, everyone chooses these essays, and then it becomes difficult for the examiner to what you call separate the wheat from chaff, separate the good from the bad. Why? Because everyone will be writing mostly similar things. That is when it becomes problematic. That is the reason why you expect average marks in these essays. Second one is these philosophical ones. And this is where what you call risk taking becomes necessary. That is what we study in economics, risk theory of profits. What it says is that if any entrepreneur takes more risks, there is always likelihood of him earning more profits. If you enter into uncharted territory, obviously the ground will be yours. You can do whatever you want. Of course, there will be a lot of risk associated with that also. And when the risks are very high, you will be gaining also very high. Take the case of Mukesh Ambani. He took this big risk of starting this Reliance Jio. When he had come out with this Reliance Jio and crashed the prices of mobile production in India with the help of these 4G and 3G technologies. It has forced other telecom companies literally to shut down their doors, their offices. And Reliance was also incurring heavy losses because of artificial reduction in prices. But he had taken that big risk. Now they are reaping the profits also. That is what we say. The higher the risk, the more would be the profits. In the same manner, if you take these risky topics, out of say 12,000 people who will be writing the mains, how many of them can be taking these kind of topics? Maximum say 500, not more than that. 500 is also a big number, we can say 200 only. You can ask those who have written mains last year, how many of them have chosen these kind of topics? Not even one out of 100 also. Why? Because nobody wants the risk. Everyone wants to have a risk-free life, especially that is part of Indian psychology also. Indians basically are risk-free people. That is the reason why we are not entrepreneurs also. So that is the reason why if you want more marks, you have to take risks. Why? Because if you are taking this kind of essay and if you are writing a good essay, then out of 125, you can score even 95 also, 90, 95 also. So the difference here is 30, 35 marks. That is what you must remember. It is all about taking risks. Life is all about taking it. When you prepare for this examination itself, it shows that you are willing to take big risks. With so much of uncertainty associated with this examination, it is all about taking risk. Only thing is that when you are taking risk, it should be what you call a calculated risk. Just because you know how to swim, you cannot go to a top of a cliff and jump from there into deep ocean. What are the chances? Your chances of survival will be 0. Just because you know how to swim. That is not called a risk. That is called suicide. So that is the reason why you must differentiate between this irresponsible risk-taking behavior and very calculated and scientific risks. And if you have to take these kind of risks, as I said, you must be prepared in terms of your knowledge of these philosophical aspects of life, ethical aspects of life. Then you can definitely do well. So, if you remember yesterday I have discussed, day before yesterday I have discussed one essay which is related to these philosophical aspects only. Now, let us take one more essay and let us see how to tackle these kind of essays. And what UPSC has done last year is that in the section A, all the 4 essays were philosophical essays. That means you had no option but to write those essays. It will be option choice. That means literally you don't have any choice. Under those circumstances, unless you are thorough with this in-depth knowledge about the philosophy, especially Indian philosophy, you will not be able to do the things well. That is the reason why again I keep on coming back to the same question. That is, you must be thorough with philosophical aspects of life. That is what you should be knowing. If you look at last year's essay paper, in section A, they have asked 4 essays. Wisdom finds the truth, the first one. Values are not what humanity is, but what humanity ought to be. Best for an individual is not necessarily best for the society. Courage to accept and dedication to improve are 2 keys to success. All these 4 are, as I said, philosophical essays. It tests your character, it tests your moral strength, it tests your ethical foundations, it tests your values and integrity. Why? Because tomorrow when you get into services, what is required is only values. You might have any amount of knowledge, but you can become a successful administrator only when you have the necessary values. Yesterday itself, if you happen to see in the newspapers, there was a news item wherein it was found that there was scam in one of those departments, education department I think. One serving IAS officer and 7 retired IAS officers. All of them had come together and they had swindled around 7 crores of rupees. What is the reason why these kind of things are happening? What is the reason why we find that almost every police officer or a revenue officer turning out to be corrupt? Why? Because, as we have said, unfortunately UPSC does not test the values or ethics. It tests only the knowledge, that too bookish knowledge. And that is the reason why UPSC also changed its approach. It wanted to test the values, character of individuals. And they wanted to see whether you are able to know the essence of life, whether you are able to know what you are required to do when you become a civil servant, whether you are able to clearly differentiate between what is necessary and what is not, whether you have the right kind of vision towards the future and life as a whole. That is the reason why these essays are asked. And that is the reason why last year people found these essays to be difficult also. And what we can be sure of is that this year also the essay marks will be less compared to previous years. 2-3 years back, the people got very good marks in essays, 150s, 160s and 170s also. Last year it had come down to around 150s and top mark was around 150s and average score was around 125. This year it can be much more lesser also, because all the 4 essays are what we call philosophical essays. Let us take up the most difficult one here. Wisdom finds truth. So looking at this statement itself, we will be completely puzzled. What do we mean by that? Wisdom finds truth. What kind of truth we are talking about here? And what is this wisdom? What is the difference between intelligence and wisdom? And what is this wisdom? And how this wisdom can help us in finding the truth? That is what the topic says. Extremely complicated but highly interesting. Very interesting topic. Highly interesting. Very interesting topic. So, how do we proceed with this kind of essays? How can we write an essay which is interesting, which can do justice to the topic, and ultimately which can fetch you good marks? As I said, if you write these kind of essays, you can be rest assured that out of 125, you can definitely expect around 85 to 90 marks. Easily. Why? Because these kind of exercises require high levels of intellect and understanding, especially about, as I said, Indian philosophy, philosophical aspects of life. Does it mean that people from philosophical background can write these essays with the philosophy optional can write these essays better? There is no guarantee, because most of the time they will be studying only theoretical aspects. They would not be studying the practical aspects. And theoretical aspects of philosophy are extremely boring, because they talk about so many things which nobody can understand, and most importantly nobody wants to understand also. That is the reason why it is called philosophy. So coming back here, what is the meaning of this statement? Wisdom finds truth. As I said, when we are writing the essays, the first and foremost thing is understanding the topic. Once you understand the topic, 90% of the work is done. After understanding the topic, you have to prepare the structure, and then you have to write the answer. For these kind of questions, as I said, writing 12 pages would be very difficult task, 10 to 12 pages. And making it more interesting would be almost impossible. So let us try to do these kind of things. Let us try to understand this from a layman's point of view. So what is this truth? What is this truth that the topic the statement is talking about? What is this truth which is universal, which is absolute? So what is the truth of life? What is that we are searching here? Wisdom finds truth means we are searching for something, and we can find the something with the help of wisdom. That is what it is. So what is the truth here? And if you are talking about something called truth, there must be the other side also, that is lies. What is this truth and what is the lie here that we are talking about? And how the wisdom helps us to find it? So from philosophical point of view, this is what we say. Since the time human beings had come onto this earth, what we say is that from a bacteria to human beings, we have seen the evolution. We have seen the evolution. Human beings are the highly evolved animals in this animal kingdom. So what is so special about these human beings? What is so special about human beings? It is that human beings can think. We can think, because of which we can differentiate between what is good and what is bad also. Because of which we can have values also. That is the difference between human beings and other species on this earth. There are many other species which are more powerful, much more stronger than human beings. But what, if at all we believe in the concept of God, what God has done is that He had given human beings one quality which other animals cannot expect to have. That is our ability to think, our ability to analyze, our ability to differentiate between good and bad, our ability to develop values. This power of thinking, has made us ask questions. Questions regarding everything that we see. It had made us ask questions about everything. We don't accept anything on its face value. We ask questions. You don't find a dog or a pig asking questions because they simply don't have this kind of thought process. So we started asking the questions. As Socrates rightly pointed out, an unexamined life is unworthy of living. That means if you don't examine, you don't have any right to live also. You have to examine, you have to ask, you have to analyze, you have to question. So we started asking the questions, and in the process we are finding the answers. And we started asking questions from the smallest of the things to the largest of them. We started asking questions, and these questions ultimately led to finding out the universal truth of life. This is where, and this wisdom of ours is helping us to find out the universal truth of life. We kept on asking questions. This process of asking questions is not what you call, we have seen only in the last 100-150 years. People think mistakenly, they think that human civilization might have started only with industrial revolution around 1750s. That is the time when we started moving towards a comfortable life. So we think that the scientific temper and industrial revolution, all these things here are only what you call the modern day phenomena. If we think that scientific temper is only modern day phenomena, or the concept of rationality is a modern day phenomena, we are grossly mistaken, because the moment human beings had come onto this earth, the process had started. From 1750s onwards, what happened is that there was diversion of this process, wherein we started giving more importance to materialistic comforts and luxuries, wherein we believed that ultimate happiness can be found in the possession of these materialistic comforts and luxuries, and we called it as scientific temper. So this is not what really it means. This is what, if you go back to one of the ancient civilizations, what we call the Hindu civilization, Indian civilization, if you cannot call it as Indian civilization, because at that point of time not many other religions existed. We are talking about say 5,000 years back or 6,000 years back. So at that point of time there was neither Christianity nor Islam, the two most popular religions in the world at this point of time. So at that point of time, the people started asking the questions, and in the process trying to find out the truth. They see something in front of them and then try to find out the truth behind it. When they cannot find the truth behind it, they try to mystify it and calling them as gods. That is how it happened. So that is the reason why if you look at Vedas and most importantly Upanishads, what is the essence of these Upanishads? The essence of Upanishads is always asking questions. It says that never accept anything on its face value. Never accept anything as it is. Question whatever that you see. Use your wisdom. Find out the truth. Then only accept it. That is what is called rationality, or what you call scientific temper now. So the so-called scientific temper that we are talking about was there thousands of years back. Only thing is that they asked much more relevant questions than what we are asking now. That is the reason why their knowledge, their understanding, their perception is far more developed. In fact, it was far more developed than what we have now. We might be talking about artificial intelligence, and we might be talking about 5th generation and 6th generation. But at present, what we can say is that our knowledge is moving in a different direction, wherein we think that it is about the materialistic comforts and materialistic way of life is the one which can give us ultimate happiness. In those days, their research was more towards the philosophical aspects. That is the reason why they gained a vast amount of knowledge. They understood the essence of life. They understood the absolute truth of life. They have used their wisdom to understand the truth of life. So proceeding further, let us try to understand these things in a much more deeper manner. As I said, philosophy can be very, very interesting, provided you understand it in a right manner. So what is the ultimate truth of our life? What is the ultimate truth of our life? Which all of us have to accept. In spite of all the scientific developments, this ultimate truth of our life we can never change, will never change. The ultimate truth of our life is that we are always mortals. We will always be mortals. That means none of us can be immortal. None of us can live permanently forever. Anything that takes birth will have to die. None of us are permanent. None of us are permanent in this world. All of us. You might be extremely powerful person on this earth. You might be the richest person on this earth. You might be American president. You might be the founder of Amazon. You might be the most intelligent person on this earth. Einstein. Most intelligent person on this earth. You might be the poorest person on this earth. What is the ultimate truth? The final destination is death. Your riches cannot help you to live for longer. Your power cannot be used as an instrument to extend your life. You cannot use your intelligence to prolong your life. And your poverty as a curse will not be reducing your lifetime also. That is what the ultimate truth of life. What we have to realize that all of us here on this earth are only guests. None of us can be called a permanent host. Whether it is a Lord Ram or a Gautam Buddha or a Jesus Christ or a Guru Nanak or a Mahatma Gandhi or a Vivekananda or an Akbar, what is common to all of them? None of them are immortal. That is what we have to accept. That is the ultimate reality of life. That is the ultimate truth of life. The ultimate truth of our life is that we are temporary in this world. Some might be living much longer, some might be living much shorter. It does not. Your life is not measured in terms of how long you have lived. It is measured in terms of what you have achieved. Jesus Christ or a Vivekananda. They lived only very few number of years. Both of them had to renounce their body before they reached 40 years. But they had achieved what others cannot achieve in a billion lives also. That is what we have to remember. The ultimate truth of life is not how long you have lived, what you have achieved, what you have understood, what you have put into practice, whether you have become a role model for others, and most importantly, whether you have lived after your death also. That's very, very important. You remember Jesus Christ after 2000 years. You remember a Gautam Buddha after 2500 years. You remember a Lord Ram, if you say that mythological figure, after thousands of years. But why do we remember all those people? Why do we remember? Why? Because they have achieved something in their life which made us worship them as gods, which made us not to forget them at any cost. They have understood the essence of life. They have understood the ultimate truth of life. They have used their wisdom to understand this ultimate truth of life. And that is what the topic says. So, you must use your wisdom and intelligence to understand the ultimate truth of life. If you have the right kind of wisdom, it definitely finds that truth. It definitely helps you to find that truth. So, proceeding further, what is the truth that they have understood? As I said, all those people who have mentioned, what is the truth that they have understood here? And understanding this truth, how did it help them to change their lives? In what way their wisdom helped them to understand the truth, and how it has helped them to change their lives? So, when you are talking about the truth, you have to talk about the other side also. What is the other side here? You have to talk about the perceptions, the hallucinations, the lies, everything else. So what are these hallucinations? What are the lies in which we live in? What are the perceptions that we get influenced very easily? So it is said, it is written in these Upanishads and Vedas and everything else, that the biggest mystery of our life, which we are yet to solve, the biggest mystery of our life is that all of us know that we are not going to be permanent in this world. All of us know that we are here only for a temporary period of time. Some people will live for 40 years, some people 60, some people 80, some people 120 years. All of us know that at some point of time, all of us know that we have to die. But where is the mystery here? When all of us know these things, what is the mystery here? Where is the mystery here? The mystery here is that we behave, all through our life, we behave as if we are going to be here forever. We are going to be here forever. That is the biggest mystery of our life. Every action of ours is directed towards only this one. That is, we believe that we will be here forever. We behave, we act, we decide on the basis of only one thing, that is, we are going to be here forever. That is the biggest mystery of our life. Knowing fully well that we are not going to be here forever. For example, take the case of a person who is in position of power. He behaves as if he will be there in this powerful position forever. Either he will be taking decisions to prolong his position, or he will be taking decisions to enjoy his position, because he believes that he will be there forever. Take the case of a rich person. He will start earning more money, much more money. There is no limit. That is why we say that there is no saturation point for all these things. Knowing fully well that you will never be able to spend that amount of money in your lifetime. If you happen to see Reliance Industries Limited, the market capitalization is 12 lakh crores. And out of which Mukesh Ambani's personal wealth will be around 4 to 5 lakh crores. Can he spend that much amount of money for the rest of his life? Or for that matter, his sons and daughters? No. But you keep on earning that money. There is no limit. There is no saturation point. That is the biggest mystery that we are talking about. That is where the human life becomes much more interesting. Why? Because what we do is that we never try to find out the ultimate truth. We always live in these kind of lies. Thinking that your money is permanent, your position is permanent, your power is permanent, your popularity is permanent, your relationships are permanent. That is where the problem is. So what happens here? When you are under this kind of misconceptions and hallucinations, automatically whatever the decisions you take will always be bad for others, because it is your self-interest that dominates the decision making process. It is your self-interest. A politician always looks at whatever the decision that he takes, will it help him to win the elections or not? A businessman always looks at only one thing, what are the decision that he takes, will it help him to increase the profits or not? We never think in terms of others, knowing fully well that we are not going to be here permanently. When Dhirubhai Ambani died some time back, long time back, he was the richest person in the country. But none of his riches helped him ultimately to prolong his life. And what happened after his death? Both his sons fought among themselves. Now one of them had become bankrupt. So whatever that he had earned all through his life, it had been misspent by his sons. It had been wasted. So all his hard work had gone into dustbin. People can say that his Reliance Industries Limited, which he has started 41 years back, had become the richest company in the country, which is fine. But how many people are there in the country to remember you in a positive manner? Say, as I said, can you ever achieve the status of a Vivekananda or a Mahatma Gandhi? What is the difference between them and you as a person? They have understood the real essence of life. They have understood the truth of life. They have used their wisdom to understand the truth of life. Whereas we ordinary citizens, ordinary mortals, spend our life only in moving in this vicious cycle of money, power, status, comfort. We don't want to come out of it. That is where we talk about using our wisdom. For that you have to understand, as I said, the absolute truth of life. Proceeding further, what is this absolute truth of life? which people like say Jesus Christ or a Gautam Buddha or a Guru Nanak have understood. What they have understood? What is that ultimate truth that they have understood which helped them to become what is called self-actualized souls? How can we use our wisdom to understand that absolute and ultimate truth of life? What is that they have done? If you look at the life of all these great souls, noble souls, what you can see is that one quality that you find them in is selflessness. They never really bothered about themselves. What is common to all these people? Or if you go back to the other gods like Ram or Shiva. So if you look at what is that really makes them noble souls? What is that they have understood? Take the case of someone like Ramakrishna Paramahansa. He was never owning a company like Reliance Industries Limited where the share prices go up skyrocket. They skyrocket with every day. He was never the richest person in the country, nor he was the most powerful person like the Prime Minister. But what is the difference between them? What is the difference between these people whom we are talking about and those who are what you call successful in this materialistic world? Whether it is an Amitabh Bachchan or a Mukesh Ambani or a Sachin Tendulkar or a Narendra Modi. All of them are successful in their own fields. Amitabh Bachchan in the film field, film actor. Mukesh Ambani business. They are the numero unos. There was no competition to all the people that we have mentioned. Or a Sachin Tendulkar or a Narendra Modi. They have achieved greater successes. But can we call them what we say as a self-actualized souls like a Jesus Christ or a Mahatma Gandhi or a Gautam Buddha or a Ramakrishna Paramahansa or a Swami Vivekananda or even someone like Mother Teresa? Why don't we say those things? What is the truth that these people have understood? And what is the truth the rest of the humanity has failed to understand? And what is that wisdom that can help us to understand these things? So the first truth they have understood is that, as I have said, none of us are permanent in this world. All of us are temporary. Second thing is that since none of us are permanent, anything external which is attached to us in this life is also not permanent. What is the external thing that we are talking about? Money, power, name, fame, relations. They have understood that none of them are permanent. Third, happiness cannot be linked to these things, because all these things which we have mentioned here can give us a pleasure, temporary, momentary. It can give us pleasure, temporary, momentary. If you have more money, if you become the richest person, you feel so good. But tomorrow someone else will take over you. If today you are powerful, tomorrow nobody will look at you also. Take the case, Sonia Gandhi was the most powerful person in the country between 2004 and 2014. Right now, her own party people don't listen to her. She had become completely powerless. her party governments are falling. That is what happens with life. So when you felt happy at that point of time, you feel miserable now. Because that kind of happiness is only temporary, momentary. So that is what they have understood. They have understood that happiness does not lie in these momentary pleasures which are external in nature. Because all of them can go away from you. All these things can go away from you. And the problem is that with all these things, you will have more uncertainties. You have more problems. You will have more insecurities. Instead of giving you happiness, it creates more uncertainty, more problems, more insecurities for you. Why? Because if you have more money, there is every possibility that tomorrow income tax people will come and take away all your ill-gotten wealth. If you are powerful today, you will be thinking about tomorrow, what happens to me tomorrow. I gave you the example. Sonia Gandhi was extremely powerful between 2004 and 2014, right now. So you will always be thinking about the future. Will I be powerful ever, forever? Obviously not. Similarly, name, fame, all these things. So it gives you the more of these materialistic things that you have in life, the more insecurity that you have. That is what. Same is the case with relations. The more you like a person, or the more you like anything, the more pain you will have when those things leave you. Because nothing is permanent. Nothing is. Either you will be leaving them or they will be leaving you. Either way it will be painful, much more painful for people. This is what all those people have understood. All the noble souls of whom we have mentioned, they have understood these things. They have understood the absolute truth of life. And that is the reason why what they were looking for is, they were looking at this absolute and permanent happiness in life. They realize the fact that the essence of life, the ultimate truth of life, lies in having this absolute and permanent happiness. That is what they have understood. The next question is, what is this one? How can they get it? How can you be happy all the time? How can you be happy all the time? How can you have that kind of peace of mind all the time, always? How can you become a self-actualized soul? And they have used their wisdom to find out this absolute truth. They have used their wisdom to find out this absolute truth. So what did they do? That is what Gautam Buddha had realized. While he was still a prince, Siddhartha, he had seen so many things in his own kingdom. He had seen an old man. He had seen a dead body. He had seen so many other things. And what he had concluded is that life is full of miseries. It is full of pain and miseries. We must overcome all these miseries and pain. And he has used his wisdom. He penance for a long period of time to find out the root cause of all this evil, to find out the root cause of the misery and everything. And what is the reason? He said that it is the desire, which is the root cause of all these evils. So ultimately, he realized this absolute truth, that as long as we have desire, we always have to live with pain, sufferings. We can never be happy. we can never be in an enlightened state of mind. You must overcome the desire in life. That is what he has realized, and that is the absolute truth. He has used his wisdom. Had he continued, he would have continued as Prince Siddhartha. After that, he would have become the king, and after that, he would have died like any other prince at that point of time, or even after 3000 years also, after his death also. He did not. He was searching for the universal truth. He was critically examining each and every part of life, and ultimately he has used his wisdom to find out the truth. Once you have that kind of wisdom, it helps you to automatically find out the truth. That is the wisdom that helped Jesus Christ to find out the truth of life. That is the wisdom that helped a Gautam Buddha, a young Siddhartha, to become a Buddha, enlightened soul. That is the wisdom that helped a Guru Nanak to become an enlightened soul. And that is also the wisdom that helped a Ramakrishna Paramhams to become a self-actualized soul. The question that we are asking here is that, what is that they have realized here? What is that gives them this permanent happiness? What is that? Because everything else, as we have discussed, will not give you permanent happiness. And your life will be full of miseries, uncertainties and insecurities, hallucinations and fears. As I said, no person can ever be absolutely happy. Why? Because as long as you are attached to something, you will never be happy. If you are attached to power, you always have this fear of losing the power. If you are attached to money, money is a fickle-minded mistress. It can leave you at any point of time. If you are attached to name and fame, it can be with you only for some period of time. After that, nobody will recognize you also. So what is that they have realized the truth? And how did this wisdom? As I said, all these people, what they have realized is that as long as they have this desire, they can never be happy permanently. They can never have absolute peace of mind. Then what should we do? What is that gives you this kind of permanent happiness? They realize that the ultimate truth of life is being selfless, being able to sacrifice, being able to help others, being able to remove the pain of others. When you are doing all these things, you are not expecting anything in return from others. That is what they have realized. That is what a Mother Teresa has done. That is what a Vivekananda had taught us. That is what the essence of Bhagavad Gita. This is what Bhagavad Gita teaches us. Nishkamta. Which translated into English would be something like a selfless action, or you can say kam means desire here, a desireless action. They realize the fact that it is our way of life wherein we do things for others without expecting anything from them, either now or in the future, that gives us permanent happiness. When can we do things to others? When we don't have any desire. When we don't expect anything from others. When we are able to forgive others for what they have done. It is quite common. Anyone who helps us, we'll try to help those people. This is quite help those people. This is quite common. This is quite natural also. But all these noble souls, what they have advocated is, try to help those people who are trying to cause harm to you also. Try always think about the good of others. Never think about ill of others. That is the reason why Jesus Christ, when he was put under severe stress, he was beaten mercilessly by the Roman soldiers. He kept on smiling. He would always say that, he would always plead with the God, please forgive those people who are causing harm to me, because they don't know what they are doing. Forgive them. That is what that makes Jesus Christ a God. God does not mean that a person who performs miracles. That is not the definition of God. If anyone who performs miracles, a magician would become a god. So that is not the definition of God. You don't call Ram God because he killed Ravan. You call Ram God because he sacrificed. He sacrificed his kingdom. He sacrificed his own wife. He sacrificed everything related to his wife, his life, for the sake of others. You call Shiva God because he drank a poison for the sake of the rest of the humanity. You call Jesus Christ God because he sacrificed his life for the sake of others. You call Gautam Buddha God because he sacrificed everything, his kingdom, his money, his power, his comforts. He chose to live in poverty. He chose to earn his livelihood through begging. That is the reason why they had become gods. Because they realized the ultimate truth of life, that nothing is permanent. All these riches, money, power, gold, jewelry, everything is temporary in the world. The real happiness they can gain only by serving others without expecting anything in others. And this is wisdom of theirs that helped them to find out the ultimate truth of life. And this is the essence of this essay. It is a wisdom that helps you to find out the ultimate truth. And if we realize this wisdom, if we have this kind of wisdom, obviously we can also realize the ultimate truth of life. Most of us have the intelligence, but we don't have the wisdom. Our IQ is very high, but the problem is that we don't have that kind of wisdom. That is the reason why we use our intelligence to come out with destructive things. For example, all these weapons that we are talking about. What is the use of all these weapons? Can these weapons help you to survive in this world? Not at all. For example, America has more than 10,000 nuclear warheads. Russia has more than 12,000 nuclear warheads. Could those 25,000 odd nuclear warheads that America and Russia combined together help them to kill this coronavirus? Not at all. That is what you have to realize. You have to realize the fact that it is not the violence, it is not the power, it is not money, it is not might, military might, that can ensure lasting peace in this world. It is our ability to help others. It is our ability to come to the rescue of others. It is our ability to remove the pain of others that can ultimately ensure global peace, lasting peace. If countries around the world realizes these things, then their defense budgets would be zero. Then there will be ultimate and lasting permanent peace in this world. That is what we have to realize. India spends 10% of its GDP, almost 9.5-10% of GDP on defense. It spends only 1% on health. Which is more important? That is what we have to ask the question. Then we will definitely realize the ultimate truth. We feel so happy when we buy so many new weapons. When Russia gives us fighter aircrafts, when America gives us better surveillance systems and more aircrafts, when India produces more nuclear warheads. we take a lot of pride in all those things, saying that we have become a superpower. What kind of superpower when you cannot even provide basic health facilities to your own people? That means you have not realized the truth. That is what ultimately the world has to realize. Otherwise, we have no option but to see the destruction of this civilization in front of our eyes, like what Corona is doing right now. That is what the essence of this entire essay. As I said, if you understand this kind of philosophical essays, you can be getting very, very good marks. For that, as I said again, you must know the essence of human life, and most importantly, must have the in-depth understanding of Indian philosophy, because all these things you find mostly in Indian philosophy. I would suggest you to read Bhagavad Gita, because if for nothing else, it can really transform your personality. It can change the way you look at your own life. It can help you to develop yourself. Ultimately, it makes you to realize the ultimate truth of life. You can use the wisdom you have gained through Bhagavad Gita to realize the ultimate truth of life, or for that matter any other religious text, or for that matter the teachings of any other religious gurus, whether it is Guru Nanak or Bhagavad Gita or Jesus Christ. They speak about the same thing. Ultimately, the truth is universal. It might have been interpreted by different people in different manner, but ultimately the truth is the same. That is what you have to write for this essay. Next, let us take one more essay. This essay let me take from last year, that is 2018. It was asked in section B. The essay is customary morality cannot be a guide to modern life. Customary morality cannot be a guide to modern life. In that year, people have written so many things about this, but most of the time they were off the mark while writing these kind of essays. So what is this essay? What is this topic? So it has two important things. One is modern life, second one is customary morality. Once you understand both these things, you can interlink it. Customary morality cannot be a guide to a modern life. So let us start with the easiest thing here, modern life. What is modern life that we are talking about? What is that modern life that we are talking about? It essentially means whatever that we have seen after industrial revolution. If we have to divide the history of human civilization, we can divide that into two parts: before industrial revolution and after industrial revolution, because industrial revolution has changed everything, including our perceptions about life also. So what it has done is that it has made us realize the importance of what is called rationality or scientific temper. Importance of rationality or scientific temper. It has also made our life much more comfortable, luxurious, much more happy because of the both things. So this is what is say is a modern life, wherein we talk about the materialistic comforts, wherein we talk about luxuries, we talk about the role of science and technology, we talk about new equipment, everything which has changed our life forever. That is what is called modern life, wherein all our perceptions about life have completely transformed. Our perception of education, our perception about health, our perception about livelihood, our perception about relationships, our perceptions about society, values, everything has changed. Now comes the question, what is this customary morality? What is this customary morality? The term customary morality, if you look at it independently, it becomes difficult to define. This term customary morality. So what is this morality? As we study in our ethics paper, this morality defines the value system of a society. It defines the value system of a society. As a whole, this morality defines the value system of a society. At a macro level, it defines the value system. That means it defines what is good and what is bad. It defines what is good and what is bad from the point of view of society as a whole. What is good for the society and what is not good for the society. And what is this customary morality? What is the meaning of this word customary? What is this customary morality? So what we are saying here is that the morality defined in terms of these customs, traditions and cultures. Morality defined in terms of customs, traditions and cultures. It can be defined in terms of laws, rules and regulations also. In terms of laws, rules and regulations also. So If you combine both these words, what it says is that if you try to understand the essence of the statement, what it says is that customary morality cannot be a guide to modern life. That means the traditions, customs, cultures, the laws and the rules and regulations which we have developed cannot be a guide to modern life. Cannot be a guide to modern life. Cannot be a deciding factor for our modern life. That is what it says. Why? Many reasons. Because the traditions, customs and cultures were developed long time back, and they might have outlived their purpose. They might have outlived their utility. So you can find a complete mismatch between those traditions, customs and what the modern life demands. There is complete mismatch. They cannot be a guide to modern life. That is what the statement says. That means whatever the traditions, customs, cultures which we have cultivated over a period of time, that is over a period of 5,000 years of our human civilization, cannot be a guide to our modern life. The life which we have accustomed to under the present circumstances. So the question that we are asking is the statement true? If it is true, to what extent? If it is not, to what extent it is not true? What are the bad things which we cannot continue in our modern life? What are the good things which we cannot ignore in our modern life? That is what the topic says. As I said, if you understand the topic, it becomes very easy for you to write a very good essay. Understanding the topic is the most important thing here. Customary morality, as we have said, customary morality means those traditions, customs, cultures and values which we have developed for the overall good of a society over a period of time cannot be a guiding factor to our present day life. That is what it says. Do we agree? That is what we have to say, and then if we yes, we can say we agree. If not, we'll say we will not agree. So let us try to see those things. Take the case of India. Take the case of India. If I have to write, I will start my essay with the highly discriminatory caste system in India. It has become part of our life for 5,000 years. Can it be a guide to our modern life, wherein we believe that all of us are equal? Can it be a guide to our modern life, wherein the people are discriminated on the basis of their caste, on the basis of their birth? Your birth is an accident. You cannot choose your parents. You cannot choose your caste, nor can you choose your religion and region or country. So why should you be punished on the basis of the things which over which you don't have any control? That is what the modern life asks. Modern life, as we have said, is based on the concept of rationality. Scientific temper. It cannot be based on blind faith, traditions and customs. It is not about blind faith, traditions and customs. So modern life has no place for these kind of things. Similarly, discrimination on the basis of gender. As part of traditions and customs, in India, women are always treated as secondary grade citizens. The question that we are asking is, do these kind of traditions and customs have any place in our modern society, where you want to discriminate people on the basis of their gender? The question we are asking. Next, like what is happening in America, racial problem, race. If you look at it, the Second World War took place because of the misconceived notion of Adolf Hitler that the Germans belong to Aryan race. Misconceived. And he believed that Aryans had the moral right to rule the entire world. And most importantly, they had the moral obligation to eliminate the Jewish population from this earth. Do these kind of notions have any kind of place in the progressive societies, present progressive societies? In the same manner, at present what is happening in America, the white and the black. For ages in America, Africa and Europe, this slave trade was considered a normal business activity. Mostly the blacks were traded because it is the skin of their color that determined whether you are superior or not. So it is the color of their skin that determined. Do these kind of notions have any kind of place in the modern societies? This is what my interaction would be. I would be asking these questions as part of my interaction by giving these examples. Obviously, either automatically the essay becomes interesting because I am raising very, very controversial questions as part of my interaction. It makes the examiner sit up and look at the essay, read the essay. He will be much more interested in reading what would be my answer and what is the other side also. What is the other side that you are talking about? Are those old traditions and customs have absolutely no place in the present day societies? To say that all those old traditions and customs have no place is also completely wrong. The truth always lies somewhere in between these two extremes. There are so many traditions, customs and cultures and beliefs and faiths which have lost their significance for the present day societies. At the same time, there are so many of them which are still relevant. That is what we have to look at the other side of the coin also. So, coming to the other side of the coin, what are those traditions? What are those traditions and customs which we can find them to be relevant even now also for the present day societies, which we cannot lose sight of, which have become much more relevant for the present day societies? What are those things? What is the things which can become guidelines for the present day societies? As we have said, when we talk about this modern life, it started immediately after Industrial Revolution. That means we have to talk about those traditions and customs which were practiced by people before Industrial Revolution, which are relevant even now also. You don't have to completely agree with the statement, which are relevant even now also, which were practiced earlier. First and foremost, the education. In those days, education was mostly based on morals and values. In those days, education mostly emphasized on transforming the young students into good human beings by inculcating morals and values. Why? Because in those days there was no science and technology. In those days there were no comforts and luxuries. In those days there was no IT, information technology. In those days, thankfully, there was no online classes also. You always thank God for this kind of small mercies. So, children, they would go to their guru, they serve him, and in the process they also learn the various aspects of life. The objective ultimate is to convert them into good human beings with the right kind of values by teaching them the morals and values. Now, the present day modern life can learn a lot from those things. What is lacking in our present education system? Our present education system focuses more on imparting skills, knowledge. Even yesterday also our Prime Minister was talking about skills and knowledge. And in the process we have conveniently forgotten values. And the worst part of it is that we are looking at the consequences of this absence of moral education, but still we don't want to learn. You take a case of these doctors who are treating the patients nowadays, corona patients, especially the private hospitals. These private hospitals are owned by doctors whose primary objective is to literally become bloodsuckers, charge exorbitant fees from these people. Why? Because their education taught them the skills and knowledge, but not values. Yesterday I had our Prime Minister also spoke about the values. It would have been better. Skills and knowledge is very important, but most important is values. Otherwise you will use your skills and knowledge to exploit others. That is the reason why, as we study in your ethics paper also, knowledge without values is dangerous, because you will always use your knowledge to exploit others, like what we are witnessing with the private commercial hospitals now. So that is the reason why what we can say is that not everything that was there as part of traditions and customs was bad. It can be a guide definitely to our modern life. Not everything was bad. Every civilization, we must remember, has something good and something bad. We cannot paint the civilization with either a white or black brush. The reality is always grey, somewhere between the white and black. That is what we must write for this kind of essays. We have to analyze the things. We can give other examples. What were the other good things that was part of their civilization? Another important thing that was a part of their civilization was because of, you can say that since they did not have any access to this modern technology, luxuries and comforts, they were more what we call people oriented. They found happiness in the company of the people. They lived what is called community life. That is a part of the traditions and customs. If you look at all the festivals that we celebrate here, especially in Hindu religion, you have hundreds of festivals. What is the essence of all these festivals? The essence of all these festivals is that people should come together, the family members should come together and celebrate it together, because happiness when shared with others increases, whereas the pain and sorrow when shared with others again it reduces. A beautiful truth which we have completely forgotten in the present day modern life. Why? Because we have always become inward looking, selfish, and we never believe in sharing anything with others. Of course, we don't mind sharing our pain and sorrow with others. That is the reason why we can see so many suicides also. For example, what is the reason why someone like Sushant Singh Rajput committed suicide? Why? Because there was no one to share either his success or his failure. What kind of life is it when you don't have anyone to share your success or failure? Of course, when you become an enlightened soul like Gautam Buddha, that's a different thing. You don't require anyone, because the entire world will be yours only. But not when you are not enlightened soul. It results only in this kind of loneliness, aloofness will only result in this kind of unnatural things like suicides. That is what we can learn from the past traditions and customs, that community life, living together, sharing everything with others. So there is not everything that we talk about the past is bad. So here in this case, there are certain things which can be good also. Similarly, another important thing that we can learn from them is how not to pollute environment, how not to exploit the nature. Because in the name of industrial revolution, we have moved towards what is called materialistic societies. And these materialistic societies have only ultimately resulted in ruthless exploitation of environment, ruthless exploitation of nature. And as we kept on discussing, it resulted in severe consequences. What we must realize is that we should go back to the ancient civilization, wherein people were much more happier living close to the nature. They were much more happier without having all those comforts and luxuries. You take a present day modern life wherein people are extremely rich and have all the comforts but don't have any happiness. And go back to 500 years wherein there was no electricity, there was no computer, there was no internet, there was no Facebook, and there was no TikTok also. Still people were happy at that point of time. Now that TikTok is not there, half the country went into depression. So what is the reason why? Why are we living in this kind of virtual world? Have we become slaves to our technology? Can't we find happiness in things which are part of the nature? That is what again we can learn from the past traditions and customs. Similarly, there are other traditions and customs from the past which cannot be guided to a modern life. In the past, there was a blind faith in everything that is being taught by religious leaders. It led to exploitation by the religious leaders. Whatever may be the religion, it led to exploitation. In the Hindu religion, it was the Brahmins who used their knowledge to exploit other sections of society by demanding a strict adherence to the rules and regulations that they had framed for other sections of society. In other religions, Islam and Christianity, it was the Catholic Church, the Vatican, which imposed these kind of restrictions, rules and regulations. In Islam, again, it was the heads of those religious institutions who had come in the way of scientific temper and rationality. Those kind of blind faith in traditions and customs cannot be a guide to our modern life. As I said, the best thing about the modern life is our ability to question. The best thing about our modern life is our freedom from these kind of blind faith traditions and customs. The best thing about the modern life is our independence and sovereignty, which cannot be taken away by these traditions, customs and cultures. We must protect it. We should always fight against those traditions and customs and cultures which come in the way of our empowerment. This is another thing that we can always say that we should ignore from the past. Next thing that we can learn is that the next thing that we should avoid from this customary morality is about these kind of dictatorships that we should be careful about. Because if you look at the ancient and medieval times, there was nothing like democracy at that point of time. And whatever may be the country, whatever may be the region, they expected the people to treat the king as their god, as part of traditions and customs. Those kind of things cannot be a guide to modern life. We don't have to treat our rulers as gods. We must believe that our rulers are also like ordinary human beings like us only. They also have the same kind of weaknesses like we the people. And those kind of traditions and customs which demand that the subjects should treat the king as a god should never be part of our modern life. These are the things which cannot be part of our modern life. And then other things like untouchability in Hindu religion. Untouchability as a tradition and custom was developed long time back because of the circumstances at that particular point of time, 5,000 years back during the Vedic age. It has no place in the present day world, in the present day egalitarian societies. So it can never be a guide to a modern life. Untouchability. Similarly, there are so many other traditions and customs. For example, as we say, this spending huge amounts of money on these religious rituals. That is what Mahatma Gandhi says. One of the crimes that we commit, one of the 7 sins that he spoke about. Worship without sacrifice. What is the point of spending a lot of time on worshipping gods without understanding essentially the meaning of the word worship? The real worship lies in sacrifice. People believe that this is there in almost every religion, whether it is Christianity or Islam or Hindu religion. What the belief is that if you commit any sin, go and offer something to God. Make God a partner in your crime. Then your sin will be washed away. Hindus believe that if you take a dip in the river Ganges, Ganga, all your sins will be washed away. That is the reason why the river is always polluted. Maybe. And that is also the reason why now the river is has become much more cleaner, because thanks to the lockdown, in the last 3-4 months, people have not taken any bath in Ganges. So you cannot have these kind of wrong notions about morality. That is what every religion says. Christianity says that it is the blood of Jesus that will wash away all your sins. It should never also. That means giving license to you to commit any kind of sin because Jesus' blood is there. That is not. It might be said in a good spirit, but it might be giving wrong interpretations also. So what you must teach people is that never commit any kind of sin. If you are committing any sin, even God also cannot come to your help. If you commit any kind of sin, any kind of religious activities or worships will not help you. That is why what we see is that nowadays there is huge amount of revenue for all the temples, church and all the religious institutions. Why? Because people commit sins And by donating money to these religious institutions, we believe that we are reducing the burden of our sins, or we believe that we are making also the God a partner in our crime. It cannot be the thing. That is where scientific temper and rationality comes into picture. If you are committing any wrong deed, you must pay for it. No amount of no amount of penance, if it is not real, can help you. You cannot kill human beings and animals and say that being human. That is not the way the world should be. You must believe that it is ultimately the humanity. You must believe that it is ultimately the human values that can help you, whatever may be the civilization, modern or ancient or anything else. That is the essence of modern life. And this is what you have to write for these kind of essays. As I said, most of the people who have written this essay at that point of time in 2018 went off the track. They wrote about constitution, they wrote about so many other things which are not at all relevant. As I keep on saying, what you must understand is these kind of essays require huge amount of conceptual clarity. You can gain this conceptual clarity provided your concepts in ethics paper are very strong. When I say concepts in ethics paper, basically means your true understanding of nature, life and the world from a philosophical perspective. Then you will be able to write good answers to these kind of essays. As I said again last year, that is in 2019, all the 4 essays in the section A are the philosophical ones. That is the reason why I am expecting this year less marks per essay also. Why? Because as I said, if you look at the first essay that we have discussed, wisdom finds its own truth, it becomes difficult to write those kind of essays unless you have in-depth knowledge of human life and philosophy. So this is what you must remember. Rest of the essays, as I said, they are very easy. For example, an essay like a biased media is a real threat to democracy, Indian democracy. You can easily write these essays. If you have good knowledge about current events, you can write. Similarly, neglect of primary health care and education in India are the reasons for its backwardness. This is like saying that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. These are all universal truths. We know that the basic reason for backwardness in our country is the criminal negligence on the part of our policy makers regarding social infrastructure, especially education and health. And rise of artificial intelligence, the threat of jobless future or better job opportunities through reskilling and upskilling. That is what yesterday our Prime Minister also has said. We must improve our skills in this fast changing world, rise of artificial intelligence. When 99% of your activities are performed by machines, there is a less demand for physical human labor. So what we must do is to reinvent ourselves by learning more skills. Otherwise, the first part of the question will be true. It results in jobless future, which we already are witnessing. So these are the things which you ultimately makes you write good essays. Your ability to analyze the things from all dimensions. If you look at the 2 essays that we have discussed, we don't have to discuss any other dimension, constitutional or legal, because they are not part of it, because we are only mostly discussing philosophical essays. But rest of the essays, you can always include all those dimensions and interlinking them with the proper examples. So this is what you have to write for essays. If you still have any doubts about writing essays, you can always post your questions on our Telegram group. I will try to answer them. Best of luck.